Hypertension, or high blood pressure, affects 75 million Americans. Untreated hypertension can lead to heart and kidney disease, stroke, and blindness. High blood pressure costs about $46 billion every year to treat. However, by managing this condition through the foods we eat, we can cut these costs by millions. Topping the U.S. News and World Report's list of best diets for the 7th year in a row, the DASH diet can help people lose weight, prevent and manage diabetes, and improve heart health. The DASH diet stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. If you've been diagnosed with hypertension, your doctor may recommend that you follow a DASH eating plan. The DASH diet is rich in fruits and vegetables as well as whole grains, low-fat dairy, poultry, fish, beans, nuts, and seeds. It's also lower in sodium, sweets, sugary beverages, and red meat than the typical American diet. One of the first nutrients to focus on when starting a DASH diet is sodium. Sodium is a compound mostly found in salt. The current recommendations for sodium are to limit to 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams per day. While we do get sodium in our diets from the salt shaker, more than 75% of the sodium in our diet comes from processed foods. That means it's already in many of the foods we're eating. Learning to read food labels is a great way to understand where sodium is coming from in our diet. When reading a food label, the first place you want to start is by checking the portion size. If you eat more than one portion, you'll need to adjust all of the numbers below. Next, jump down to the sodium line. Here you can see the milligrams of sodium in each serving of the product, as well as the percent daily value. As a general rule of thumb, foods with greater than 20% daily value are too high in sodium and may not fit into a DASH diet plan. Canned vegetables, frozen meals, boxed products, and processed meats like bacon and sausage are usually high in sodium. On top of lowering salt intake, the DASH diet encourages that you eat many nutrients like vitamins and minerals that can help lower blood pressure, such as potassium, magnesium, calcium, protein, and fiber. A few ideas on how to get more of these nutrients include to add a serving of vegetables to lunch or dinner each day, eat fruit as a snack or in place of sweets for dessert, increase use of fat-free or low-fat milk products to 3 servings per day, limit meat to just 3 ounces at meals, or about the size of a deck of cards, participate in more vegetarian-style or meatless meals, and look for little ways to increase your intake of whole grains, such as switching from white rice to brown rice and choosing 100% whole grain breads. In addition to following a DASH-style eating plan, there are a few things you can do to help lower your blood pressure. Maintain a healthy weight. If you have questions about what a healthy weight would be for you, talk to your doctor or registered dietitian. Exercise regularly. The American Heart Association recommends individuals get at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise, such as brisk walking or riding a bike. This breaks down to just 30 minutes 5 days a week. Limit alcohol consumption. If you drink, do so in moderation. This means no more than 2 drinks per day for men and 1 drink per day for women. For more information on the DASH diet or to discuss ways to improve your current eating habits, ask your doctor for a referral to schedule an appointment with an OSU dietitian.
Did your provider suggest trying a gluten-free diet? If so, you've probably been having digestive problems like wheat allergy, celiac disease, or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Let's start by talking about what gluten is. Then we will talk about gluten-related diseases and how the diet might help. Gluten is a protein naturally made by wheat, barley, and rye. Remember, food has 3 types of building blocks: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. While we tend to think of protein as a meat, plants make a lot of it too, and different plants make different kinds. The gluten protein is unique because its 2 parts, gliadins and glutenins, trap water and get sticky when they're wet, like glue. This is why wheat, barley, and rye flours are great for making doughs and batters. During baking, their stickiness also helps trap rising air bubbles so that breads and cakes become fluffy. A gluten-free diet primarily leaves out food made from flour, but the tricky part is finding places where gluten tends to hide. Oats are another possible hiding place. They don't naturally make gluten, but are often contaminated by wheat grown in nearby fields or processed by the same machines. The complete list of products that have gluten can feel long and somewhat random when you're first starting a gluten-free diet. This is why professionals trained in nutrition are available to help. Remember, for the most part, wheat, barley, and rye are the only natural sources of gluten. This makes other food groups automatically gluten-free. The other grains are typically safe too. Corn, rice, and nutrient-packed quinoa, for example, don't make gluten on their own. For people who want to bake, there are even gluten-free flours. These are either made from plants that naturally don't make gluten, or they are made from wheat and have had the gluten removed and replaced by xanthan gum. That brings us to the next question.
Who should be on a gluten-free diet?
The most common gluten-related disorders are wheat allergy, celiac disease, and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Wheat allergy is a strong allergic reaction to wheat proteins that causes some people to suddenly have severe difficulty breathing. You may know people who have had similar reactions to peanuts or bee stings. Wheat allergies are dangerous, but very rare. Celiac disease, on the other hand, is an autoimmune disease. When people with this disease eat gluten, the immune system flares up and damages the intestines. Inflammation makes it hard for them to absorb enough nutrients and puts these people at risk for weak bones, anemia, and unhealthy weight loss. The third disease is non-celiac gluten sensitivity. This one is less well defined. The symptoms are similar to celiac disease, but are caused by a different set of triggers. Some researchers prefer to call it non-celiac wheat intolerance in particular. They've studied whether it could be a reaction to a carbohydrate in wheat called fructan instead of the gluten protein. It could also be driven by enzymes in wheat called amylase trypsin inhibitors. For people with wheat allergy and celiac disease in particular, avoiding gluten completely is essential for their health. On the other hand, if you don't have a gluten-related disorder, you don't need to avoid it. The gluten-free diet isn't the type that helps you lose weight or build muscle. It can be low on B vitamins and folate, since gluten-free flours are typically not fortified. And it is missing out on the polyunsaturated fats and fiber in whole wheat that are known to benefit cholesterol and blood pressure. Whole wheat is usually a good thing. So that's it. Just remember, if you are wondering whether you should go gluten-free, you need to see your provider first. This is important for timing. Remember those 3 diseases we talked about? If you start the diet on your own and your body is not exposed to gluten any longer, the test could miss the diagnosis. The second reason is guidance. Remember all of those places gluten likes to hide? If it turns out that you do have a gluten-related disease, you will need help learning about your new diet. A professional trained in nutrition will teach you what you need to avoid. They will also teach you about the new foods you can enjoy, like naturally gluten-free whole grains that are important for your health. They will help you make the right adjustments and customize your diet for you. Thanks for watching.
That said, if you want to learn more about IF, here are some of the key principles. There are 2 basic terms to first familiarize yourself with: feeding and fasting. Your body is in a feeding state when you're eating, and in a fasting state between meals. There are a few methods of fasting. One is skipping meals to prolong the time of fasting. The most common meals that people choose to go without are breakfast and lunch. Another method is referred to as eating windows. This approach requires condensing your entire macronutrient intake in between a 4 and 7 hour window. During the rest of the day and night, you're in a fasting state. The third and most extreme is a 24 to 48 hour cleanse. This long of a period is really more of an extended fast than an intermittent fast, and we don't recommend that people new to fasting start here. We found that the best IF introduction is restricting yourself to certain eating windows. One common way people restrict themselves is by eating only during the hours of 5 to 11 p.m. Remember, the time you spend sleeping counts as fasting, so if you finish your dinner at 6 p.m. and don't eat until noon the following day, you've achieved an 18-6 window. If you hear people using numbers to describe their fasting habits, the first number is the number of fasting hours, and the second number is the number of eating hours. For instance, if someone says their eating window is 19-5, that means they have 19 hours of fasting and 5 hours of eating. You also don't have to practice IF every day. You can try it once a week or a few times a week to see how it feels to adjust your schedule. Listen to your body, and if it's working for you, keep it up, or try adding another day or 2. Now, why does IF work? The key thing to consider is that our bodies can only take in a certain amount of food at one time. So creating stricter guidelines around when we eat creates a built-in limit on our calorie intake. People who struggle with overeating or mindless snacking often find this very helpful. During fasting periods, our bodies begin to break down stored fat for energy. When we're in ketosis, our body already mimics a fasting state because of the absence of glucose in our bloodstream. Whenever you're fasting, don't forget that you'll likely need to eat some extra fat once you break the fast in order to hit your daily macros. Beyond weight loss, there are other proven benefits of fasting. Yoshinari Ohsumi, who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016, discovered that fasting can trigger autophagy, a process where non-essential parts, like damaged proteins, are recycled and invading microorganisms and toxic compounds are removed. It's basically like your cells are getting a nice deep cleaning. Autophagy is an important factor in stopping the aging process, reversing disease, and preventing cancer. When we eat 3 or more meals a day and fulfill our calorie needs, even with the healthiest of foods, our cells can still get backed up with non-essential proteins and toxic compounds. To give cells a chance to clean themselves without other functions distracting them, we must give our bodies a break from feeding through fasting. This fasting process will not only activate autophagy in your cells, it will also increase your ketones much faster than if you were just eating a standard ketogenic diet. If you combine intermittent fasting with activities like walking, cycling, or lifting weights, you can raise your ketone levels and increase autophagy more than you would with intermittent fasting alone. Many people who practice IF also experience heightened mental clarity because fat is considered one of the most energy-efficient fuels for your body to run on, and your brain consumes a lot of energy. Once your body is keto adapted, your brain can effectively run on ketones, which are derived from fat breakdown in the liver, and IF only amplifies this effect. If you maintain a daily or frequent fitness regimen, you might be concerned about how fasting will affect the way you feel pre- and post-workout. Not to worry. Many studies have proven that intermittent fasting while training can result in higher metabolic adaptations, improve muscle synthesis, and improve response to post-workout meals.
It's not a plan you have to buy or sign up for. It's not special food you have to have delivered, or even a complicated book you have to read. The keto diet is simply a shift in how you eat that claims to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. The ketogenic diet is a high-fat, low-carb eating plan. Eating more fats and very few carbs puts your body into ketosis, a metabolic state where your body burns fat instead of carbs for fuel, often leading to rapid and substantial weight loss. And let's face it, keto is everywhere. Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and people in your own life are all singing the praises of a ketogenic diet.
It works. It is not hard to stick with. That was my biggest thing.
The reason why keto is so helpful for me is because it completely broke my addiction to carbohydrates.
I lost 40 pounds in 12 weeks.
Steak, burgers, bacon, even cheese, and you lose weight. The keto craze has thousands of people trading in their carbs for a high-fat frenzy, and they say they don't miss the sugar or the bread.
So when you're in ketosis, that means the liver is making ketones. Ketones are a fuel that get put into the bloodstream. So one of the first things you would notice is increased energy. You have this super fuel that your body is creating from fat that's now in your bloodstream. One of the things that people notice is they no longer crave sweets as much.
Would you all like that, by the way?
Which is huge, yeah.
So I only point this out because the people I've talked to, like you, who are successful in keto diets, say it's easy because they're not craving the foods they know they can't have.
Right. So another reason or another way you might detect that you're in ketosis is you might smell it on your breath. A little metallic breath, a little sweet rotten apple breath or something like that.
But it doesn't have to be bad breath.
No.
People think they're going to smell like the worst thing imaginable.
No.
Right.
Exactly. And then a final way is on urine strips. So, you pee purple, right? That's one of the hallmarks of being in ketosis is it's demonstrated by the urine. Yeah.
So come on over. I want you to show everyone what kinds of foods we can and what we can't eat on this program. And again, people aren't shipping this to you in a box. You're going to actually make these decisions yourself. We're treating you like an adult because you should be treated like an adult to make wise decisions. So what is okay to eat? Green checks for keto.
Right. Okay. So protein rich, these are clean proteins. So we got beef, pork, lamb, chicken, turkey.
So these meats have fats, obviously, which is what you're looking for, but you can get your fat without having to, you don't have to have a steak to get the fat.
Absolutely not. So then we have nuts and seeds and oil. So we have macadamia nuts, one of my favorites, pecans, Brazil nuts, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, full-fat yogurt, for instance, and even some of the, the fringe foods like unsweetened almond milk are okay.
I'm just going to go through a couple of these things. First of all, so there's lots of things you can eat that are actually arguably good for you, but there are things, this is what throws docs off, they're in the don't eat category. They're also good for you, right? I mean, we all know not to have soft drinks, but what's the problem with an apple or a potato, for example?
Yeah, so apples, carrots, those are what we call high glycemic fruits and vegetables. So they convert to glucose pretty quickly in the bloodstream. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to reduce the amount of glucose that gets into the bloodstream because glucose shuts off ketosis, right? So we want to avoid bread, pasta, cereal, cakes, candies, pies, cookies. I'm sorry, but that's that goes along with it.
They're going to rush the stage.
No, but look at all the good stuff you can eat, right? so yeah.
Mark, thank you very much.
What comes to mind when you think of the Mediterranean? Perhaps a pristine Italian coastline, or a dream vacation destination. Or how about food? The Mediterranean diet has many health benefits that can lower our risk for heart disease.
It's a sobering reality that 1 in every 4 deaths in America is a result of heart disease. One of the main risk factors is having high cholesterol. Cholesterol is a waxy, fat-like substance, and when your body makes too much of it, it can build up on the walls of your arteries. This buildup restricts the amount of blood and oxygen carried throughout your body and can result in a stroke, heart attack, or other forms of heart disease.
Eating a traditional Mediterranean diet lowers our risk for heart disease.
The traditional Mediterranean diet is legumes and vegetables, whole grains, fruits, nuts, olive oil instead of butter and other types of fat, small amounts of dairy products, and small amounts of meat.
The Mediterranean diet has many health benefits because it contains high amounts of antioxidants, protein, and omega-3s.
But you should shift from avoiding fats entirely to adding healthy fats into your diet that fight bad cholesterol.
To get the good unsaturated fats, substitute olive oil, nuts, and seeds, as well as avocados, into your diet. You can use olive oil for salad dressings, stir fry, make desserts, or replace butter by dipping your bread in olive oil.
The fats in olive oil are mostly monounsaturated, which help lower cholesterol.
The second tip is eat more legumes like beans, lentils, and garbanzos. A traditional Mediterranean food like hummus is made from garbanzo beans and oil from whole sesame seeds. Try adding hummus to your next sandwich or use it as a dip for pita bread, carrot sticks, and other vegetables.
The third tip is to eat more nuts and seeds like almonds and walnuts. One thing you can try is instead of having a candy dish on the table, fill it with almonds. This way, as you and your family members walk by, you'll pick up a quick and healthy snack. There's your tip for the day on how you can live healthier longer.
You know, me and paleo, we have major history. Hi, I'm Tracy Lockwood Beckerman. I'm a registered dietitian in New York City, and it's my job to help you figure out what to eat and why. Today we're traveling back in time to cave dudes and dudettes, the hunters and gatherers, to take a deep dive into the paleo diet. You might have heard of this trendy diet, but today I'm explaining what it is, what it entails, and the pros and cons to consider before starting. Although this way of eating dates back decades, the paleo diet was popularized by Dr. Stanley Boyd Eaton in 1985. It was designed to resemble what our hunter-gatherer ancestors ate thousands of years ago during the Paleolithic era, under the argument that our bodies were not built to consume foods produced by modern farming practices. So, paleo is all about eating strictly whole foods and avoiding processed foods. That means you'll be cutting out sugar, dairy, ice cream, grains, alcohol, and legumes. A disclaimer, all of the studies that I referenced were completed short-term, and therefore the long-term effects of paleo are unknown. Here's what we do know about the benefits of the diet. One thing I think all of my fellow RDs can get behind is cutting back on processed foods. We know that packaged foods usually sneak in sugars and additives that are not so great for our bods. In fact, in a study by the Harvard School of Public Health, about 3/4 of the average American sodium intake comes from commercially prepared foods. Mind blown! Eliminating processed foods and eating more whole foods will help to manage blood pressure, potentially stave off disease, and avoid empty calories and added sugars. What's the buzziest buzzword in food and health right about now? Inflammation! Well, because you're cutting out foods that have sugar, alcohol, and gluten, paleo can potentially help reduce inflammation in the body, which can help mitigate the symptoms of chronic illness. In general, if you follow a diet rich in lean protein and plant-based foods, you will feel fuller longer, which will help to control blood sugar. Reducing those spikes in blood sugar is great for keeping our energy levels and stress hormones in check. The major RD red flag is that this diet could poke some nutritional holes in your diet if you don't do it right. Limited or no grain intake can diminish levels of B vitamins like niacin, folate, as well as magnesium and fiber, all of the nutrients your body wants and needs to run properly. Cutting out major food groups such as dairy can lead to a lack of nutrients like calcium, vitamin D, and phosphorus. Dear dairy, will you Swiss me when I'm gone? I said it about keto, and I'm gonna say it now. Diets that eliminate a whole food group raise some serious concerns because really, there's no substantial evidence that supports the exclusion of dairy, legumes, and grains from an average consumer's diet. Sorry, not sorry. The diet also focuses on a higher quantity of saturated fats coming from meat, which has been shown to increase the risk for heart disease. I always recommend reducing foods high in sat fat, which is why I'm team olive oil when possible. Aside from the nutritional question marks, I always look at the practicality of a diet. As with any diets with big restrictions and too many no's, it can be difficult to incorporate into your daily life, especially when it comes to eating on the go. Do yourself a favor and don't jump into a diet without planning ahead and doing your research. Now for some tips on how to make paleo work for you. Focus on green, leafy vegetables for calcium like bok choy, Swiss chard, and spinach. Incorporate plant-based protein sources such as hazelnuts and hemp seeds to reduce the focus on meat. There are so many cooking oils out there, it can get confusing. Use olive oil when possible, and avoid using a ton of coconut oil, which contains extra saturated fat. Don't treat fruit like it is going to send you off track. While fruit isn't the center focus of the paleo diet, you should still include 1 to 2 servings of fruit per day into your diet for an extra punch of nutrients and antioxidants. Although paleo is restrictive, it is pretty easy to keep track of since you'll just be looking for whole plain foods. But that could be tricky when it comes to eating on the go. While my first go-to is just to grab a plain old apple, you can also look for pre-packaged paleo snacks when you're in a pinch. Hu Kitchen, Siete, Primal Kitchen, and Lesser Evil are great options. But a friendly reminder, just because it's paleo doesn't mean you should polish off a bar of yummy chocolate every night. It can be daunting to eliminate dairy and grains. However, get creative with veggies and experiment with nut cheeses. Try roasted squash boats with almond cheese and zucchini ribbons, aka zoodles, with velvety cashew alfredo to fill that void. Get to know your milks. No, not milk with an I, milk with a Y. That's right, dairy-free alternatives are going to be your BFF on the paleo diet, whether it's almond milk, banana milk, or coconut milk. Be realistic about the sourcing of your food. While some super strict paleoites are particular with the quality of meats, don't put too much pressure on eating organic and grass-fed all the time for your wallet's sake. As always, pay attention to your body. If you start to feel funky, consider making some adjustments. On the flip side, track improvements in your stress and energy levels, as well as sleep quality rather than focusing on weight loss. Lastly, there are a few health conditions that may be compromised by this diet. Continuously check your blood levels with a doctor, especially if you have a family history of cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, or osteoporosis. If you can't tell by now, diets that eliminate entire food groups are never my go-to Rex. While there are aspects of the paleo diet I can definitely get behind, like cutting down on sugar and processed foods, there is not enough substantial evidence that eliminating grains and dairy from your diet will have a positive long-term effect. This diet was designed to emulate our ancestors, but the thing is we've come a long way since the cave days, and we can't turn a blind eye to the health benefits of a diverse diet that touches on every food group. See you next time